And we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Forever Rugby on Forever Sports. And the Springbok squad has been announced, as well as the SAA squad. We're going to be talking about it for the next half an hour. So buckle in, because there's a lot of interesting selections, lots of big calls that have been made. And I think it's going to cause quite a lot of debate and very interesting to see what everybody has to think about the various squads. And I must admit to being very happy with the Springbok squad. But being a little bit iffy about the SAA squad. I do have my reservations about a couple of selections. Yeah, I think it's a bit frustrating that some players who are playing some really good rugby haven't made the SAA squad. But interesting to sort of see a couple of other big names being back in the mix. So yeah, we're going to first of all go through the Springbok squad and we'll sort of talk about that and see what everybody has to say. Then we're going to look at the SAA squad and we'll talk about that as well. I think generally I'm quite happy with the Springbok squad. But yeah, I think there's some very unlucky players in that SAA squad and some very lucky players who I think have been called up for me, despite not really impressing that much at this level. But I don't want to be too negative. I just do feel sorry for a couple of players. But the Springbok squad, that's where we're going to start. I think it's very good, and I think they've gotten it. I think they've gotten it right. So yeah, we're going to look at the Springbok squad in a moment. A couple of very big names being included, a couple of returns, players we haven't seen in the box shirt in quite a while, and same thing with the SAS squad. A couple of big names there being welcomed back into the box mix. So before that, I'm going to put out a poll saying, are you happy with the box squad? Are you happy with the Springbok squad? It's a yes or no answer. Just go and vote and let me know what you think. I'm going to look at some of the comments now. Tim Vandenberg say, morning, Steve. Excited to see Jenkins to the mix. Evan deserves a rest, I think. Obviously, his other corner has been called back, though he hasn't been in the best form. Daniel says, told you Cornell is making it. Well, he makes the SA squad. This is a very heat squad. Suspiria Enno says, I'm upset Notcher makes it above Ruan Fenter and Marcel Coetzee. Obviously, I'm worried we only have one out-and-out outside centre in the box squad. Yeah, Jessica will expect him to do a lot of work there in the tour itself. So let's have a look at the squad, shall we? This is who is jumping onto a plane on Saturday evening and will fly out to Ireland to face Ireland next week, and probably the same sort of squad to face France a week later. And I don't think the squad gets much stronger, to be honest. I do think it's very close to a full strength squad for those players who are available. The big sort of question mark is the fact that we have left out Dwayne Vermeulen for the entire squad, and I'm not sure it's the right decision. I understand why they've done it. I think they're saying that they know what he brings to the table. They don't need to play him, for example, and they need to manage his game time. They need to see if he's going to make it to the World Cup. My problem comes, and I'm not saying I would start him, for example, or even put him in the 23. If we're not seeing Dwayne Vermeulen in this end of year tour, how will we know if he will make the World Cup? Is him not being available for this tour, does this take him out of World Cup selection? And I don't think from a block management point of view it does. I think they still think that he will go he'll go to the World Cup. I do think that this is maybe a sign that there is life after Dwayne. But again, for me, it surprises me that that they're not going to have a look at him for even one or two matches. And I understand he's old, and he's a bit older and stuff like that. But for example, he's younger than I think he's like the same age as Deon Fourie. Dwayne Vermeulen is 36. I think he's actually younger than Deon Fourie. And Deon Fourie is 36. So the same age. Deon Fourie's played a lot more rugby than Dwayne Vermeulen. So yeah, I think it's just my biggest worry is the fact that we've now got maybe 2 or 3 matches next year, the incoming tour and maybe the Rugby Championship, which is a shortened Rugby Championship, to make a call on Dwayne Vermeulen. So I think that's a very big call. I'm surprised almost they didn't put him in the SAA squad, just let him run around. But yeah, we're going to talk about the SAA squad a little bit more. Hang on, I've just now... Shrips. I've just saved the box squad ahead of my SA squad. Hang on, give me a second. We'll go back to our Springbok squad. We'll talk about the SA squad now. We're sticking the Springbok squad for now. Yeah, some of the comments saying that Campus saying I wouldn't be surprised if Henko gets a jog out against Italy in the box team. Sports Dish said that personally don't get Marvin Ori over Ruan or Kier. Obviously, I'm not worried about Dwayne. Mans doesn't need to play too much rugby. He's older, needs to look after his body. Brayshaw City said Hershey Yanks in SAA. We have the rugby championship next year to see if Dwayne can make the squad. Vic said I like this SAA squad. Just Rock Up TV says we know what Dwayne can do. If he shows consistency for his club, then he's on the playing for France for sure. How does Marcel not make a squad, says David? I'm not sure he's very lucky to be there. Yeah, we'll talk about the SA squad in a bit. I do think Notch is lucky to be there. I do think there are a couple of Lions players who I think also would have been very deserving of a spot in the loose trio. But let's look at the Springbok squad. There are a couple of big calls. Jason Jenkins back in the mix. Very good to see because we haven't really had a Eben Etzebeth alternative. And Jason Jenkins, I mean, he's a bit of a freak of a man, playing very good rugby for Leinster. Sits at over 2 meters, 124 kgs, and I think that we could very well start to see that 6-2 split back, but with Jason Jenkins and Jason Jenkins, Lugiaga, Franco Master, Eben Etzebeth all in the mix. I very much think that Jason Jenkins could replace Arches Neyman, so if you look at the World Cup sort of vibe, I think Arches Neyman is too injury prone. I don't see how he gets back into the squad. But I think that Jason Jenkins could very well fill a hole there. And then you've got 2 proper number 4 locks, 2 proper number 5 locks, and we're happy days. I don't really mind the Marvin Ori, to be honest. I know a lot of people don't really like it. I think he's actually become very consistent lately. I think he is a very safe pick. His line work is exceptional. And yeah, he just does the hard yards. Yeah, I know Ruan Nakia is a very important ball carrier for the Bulls, for example. So, you see a lot of him. But I think Marvin Ori, especially at test level, he's big enough. He's solid enough. I was never the biggest Marvin Ori fan, but I do think that he has come a long way in the last couple of years. I don't really mind him. At the end of the day, he's not flashy, but he's a lock. He doesn't have to be flashy. So yeah, I'm not overly worried about that selection, to be perfectly honest. Sacha Mngomezulu in there. I'm not surprised at that at all. He has been targeted. I think he's been being groomed as the next block captain, to be honest. Ruan Nakia an opportunity for the SAA. He is part of the SAA squad, so yeah, I'm not overly worried there. They are very much not first choice. I don't think we'll see Marvin Ori play for the box, for example. I think Leo Dialga, Eben Etzebeth, Jason Jenkins, Sacha Mngomezulu all ahead of him. PSF tour needs a big tour, but a couple of interesting selections there. Marco van Staden is back into the lineup again. A bit surprised almost. I think that Marco van Staden's been playing well, but I don't think he's been breaking the door down. So interesting that he's been included back in the squad. He obviously was part of the squad. So before you sort of injury and stuff like that. So it's not really like it's a call up, it's more of a recall. And he was playing very good rugby for the box when he did get injured. But yeah, I don't think he's been playing his best rugby for the Bulls. I think we have seen better Marco van Stadens. Again, a lot of people saying, where's Marcel Garcia, even in the SAA squad. I'm saying, where's Frank Verhoorn, for example? I think there's a lot that he brings to the box squad. I think he's been lucky not to get there. But yeah, so Evan Roos, for example, in the squad. I think that if Albert Lowe was part of the squad, I think we still would have seen Evan Roos. I think we would have seen Evan Roos and Albert Lowe, maybe no Marco van Staden. Jasper Wiese is pretty standard there. Franco Boss, Dion Fourie. The 3 squad masters pretty standard. Monty Liebach getting called up, I think, had to happen. Very glad they've gone with Monty Liebach in the box squad. Jan Goosen in the SAA squad. For me, it becomes very difficult to justify having Johan Goosen in the box squad with 2 matches under his belt. Whereas Monty Liebach's been playing very good rugby for the last 18 months. URC winning fly half. So interesting to see if he will play, whether we will see him off the bench. Dwayne Vermeulen expected to start at 10 for the end of year tour. Centers, Damon J. Lindy, Andre Estate, and Jesse Creel. Not too much depth there. That's why I say I think that Henk Guppenbeek being in, and Cornel Hendricks, probably quite importantly, being in around that SAA squad is very important from a depth perspective because they can call in them if needed. Vrila Ruud, Maxwell Mapimpi. Spoon Corsi, for me, is now covering 11. We saw it at the Bulls. So I think that Maxwell Mapimpi is not the only option. In fact, it wouldn't surprise me if we actually see Spoon Corsi playing 11 at least twice this end of year tour. I think that Mapimpi needs a bit of a rest. I think he's played a lot of rugby. But the problem is no one's going to, move him out of the side because of his work rate. But Springbok does offer you that. So, yeah, I think that he is an option at 11 now, not just 14. Kurt Lance, Ches and Colby into the squad as well. Back into the squad for Ches and Colby after returning from injury. And then Sacha Mngomezulu. Again, I get a lot of hate for it. I still don't think that Sacha Mngomezulu should be there yet. I still think that he, needs to walk the road before he sort of gets there. But it is what it is. They see something special Sacha Mngomezulu, which is fine. I just think that he hasn't played a lot of rugby at this level. And I think that I would have been very happy to have seen him in the SAA squad. I would have been absolutely fine. I think SAA squad, if you had gone with him and Johnny Lombard, for example, in the SAA squad, I would have been perfect. Two young guys for the future to play against Munster and Bristol Bears. Not necessarily international games, but the next best thing, closest thing you can get to an international. Perfect. For example, I don't see Sacha Mngomezulu playing in the World Cup. After what will be his first real sort of season in at this level. So, but again, they see something special in him, which is fine. I think it's a bit soon. I would have liked him to play too. And also, I wanted to play rugby. So I'd prefer him playing to the two SAA squad matches. Maybe he still will, to be fair. Then him sitting around the box squad on the bench. So I would have been happy with him in the SAA squad. I don't think he should be in that box squad yet. I just think I understand that he's generational. I do. As I said, I'm a huge fan of him. I think he will go on to play 50 tests for the box. To get into a box squad after playing about 200 minutes of rugby at this level, for me, is a bit of a dangerous precedent. He has come back from an injury, for example. So that does play in the back of my mind, and I just don't want to see players being rushed into the system, and that to the detriment of their long-term career. So let's hope that's not the case for Sacha Mngomezulu. I'm not saying it necessarily is just because he has been called up, but for me, there's always that factor. There's always that worry. But what will be interesting is the fact that there's only 90 players in that SAA squad, so obviously a lot of players will drop down. So Sacha Mngomezulu could very well just be playing for the SAA squad, but training with the box. But they obviously do see him as an option, which is why they want him training there and stuff. It is a big blow for the Stormers, for example, who won't have either Sacha Mngomezulu, Dwayne Vermeulen, or Moin Liebach. Also, it has to do Hotspur tomorrow for their clash against the Lions. So that's the box squad. Look at some of the comments here. No Galant in either squad, so it does look like he's been put on the back burner for a while. Of course, someone like Conor Liebenberg would have been interesting. So there's an issue with Galant's visa. I'd be surprised, isn't it? What issue with Galant's visa for which country? I mean, be surprised. I mean, why is there an issue with his visa? I mean, he's playing in the top 14, so it's not like he's got a passport issue. It's not like he's gonna have a visa issue with South Africa. Clinton's saying is there not too many scrum offs between the two teams. We always do like an extra scrum off. Ricardo says Ruan Fenter had to be in the SAA side. Berestar saying hopefully Buck takes the opportunity with both hands. He says there's no specialized number 12 in SAA, only Cornell is backup, but I'm sure SAA will play 12 and Van Beek at 13. That's power. Yeah, look, I mean Cornell can play at 12 quite easily. So I think that's probably fine. I don't think we'll see Colby starting at 10, for example. It'll be interesting to see if he might start taking on a bit of kicking duties. I don't know what if he's been practicing stuff like that. Tenant saying what I said, would like to have seen all three Dupre brothers, and Masuka from the Cheetahs would have been great for SAA. Yeah, I think Sia Masuka needs to find a move to a URC team if he wants to get that call up. I don't think playing for the Cheetahs is going to be enough for him. They just don't play enough rugby at the highest level. Brace, I agree with you on Sacha. Sports Dish says Mngomezulu is a generational prospect, but simply a year or two early for him. 100%, exactly where I'm sitting there. Christian saying Sacha definitely shouldn't be there yet. Eddie has been goaded our coaches into selecting him. Kevin saying, I agree with you, Jordan Henderson deserved the spot over Sacha. Jan Koblar is injured, which is why he hasn't been considered for selection. Obviously, they'll be dropping 7 players to SA anyway. Sacha will probably be there. Sports saying, is selecting Sacha maybe just to shove Eddie Jones? Ricardo saying Sacha could be the answer for box number at 10. Sacha Mngomezulu hasn't even started a game at 10 in his professional career yet. You know that? Apart from the SC under 20, SC under 20, which isn't, it's just still age group rugby. He's actually never played a 10. So I know he is a fly half by trade, and he wants to, and that's where he wants to play. But yeah, jeepers, for him to play 10 at box before he's even played 10 at provincial level would be wild, and I'm sure he'd probably cope. So I think he is a very special player. But I'd like to see him develop. You know, I look at Dwayne Vermeulen, and Vermeulen was brought in very young, had some good games, had some moments, but also struggled quite a lot at adapting. And you know, it took a season of Dwayne Vermeulen, outside the last season at 12, for example, to suddenly find form. And I personally think Dwayne Vermeulen has been within the top 20 best players of the year so far. You know, I definitely think that Dwayne Vermeulen is potentially a Springbok Player of the Year candidate. He's been that good for us. But it did take him a while. You know, it did take him a while to adapt to the level. It took him a while to gain his confidence back. It took him a while to understand how to bring his attributes out in the Springbok jersey. And that's where I think Sacha Mngomezulu would benefit more from a season playing at the Stormers, get him to go play the World Cup, and then get him in when he's fully ready, than being rushed to the system at the moment. Tim is saying Sacha may surprise and be our Marcus Smith, just a thought, but I do see the point of him being too soon for him. Look, I think Marcus Smith, phenomenal player. I do think he's a little bit overhyped on an international stage. I think he's had some very good games for England. I think he's also had moments in an England jersey where you can see that he is a young player that does make mistakes, which comes with the territory. I think that England are not using George Ford enough. But Cass wonder if Bruce will actually be given more than just one half of this tour. Brayshaw said I would have had Buddha Chamberlain instead of Sacha. Poor Stormers this weekend. Ouch, yeah, unlucky. Pure Stormers got a 10 this weekend. We'll wait for their team announcement in about lunchtime. And see who will go to 10. Brayshaw saying, do you think Pollard will still be selected when he's recovered next year? Yeah, Pollard starts the fly at the World Cup right now. Unless we can find a kicking option, I don't see how Pollard does not start our starting fly at the World Cup. If Dwayne Vermeulen suddenly starts kicking for goal and operates at 85-90%, then he could start a fly half. But I'd be surprised. I would be very surprised if it's not Pollard starting at the World Cup. Right, SAA squad, and this is the one that I'm not as happy about, and I have to be honest with people. I think that there are some players in the squad who I don't think should be there. There are some players in the squad that I really like the selection. I think there are a lot of very unlucky players. So let's look at it. Sapiro Mantanzima, Stukul Tunu, Sazi Sande, Morne Smith are the props. I don't know if Jan Hendry Best has been calling as a prop or hooker because first of all they didn't specify within the squad itself what their positions are. And he plays hooker bull, but Rassi Rasmus says he sees him as a good loose head, so who knows what's going on there. I don't understand how Morne Smith or Sazi Sandi get there ahead of Carly Sadi. I don't understand. I can't understand how Carly Sadi continues to be left on the wayside. He was arguably, for me, one of the best tight heads in the URC last season, along with like Sir Thomas Toy, Francois Herbert. I just don't. Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, Saturday Sunday, for example, he's just coming back from a ban. I like him. I said in the video I posted earlier. I've watched him since he was at school. Because he was at St Andrews and I watched him play. He's played 22 minutes of rugby this season. He played 245 minutes last season. I don't think he's really taken that massive big step and said, here I am, you've got to select me yet. So to find himself in an SAA squad, I don't understand that. I think he will be good, and I think he's a lot of potential. How he gets there ahead of Carly Sadi, I don't understand. Yeah, I just don't. Even Morne Smith, I don't understand how he gets there ahead of Carly Sadi. You look at how scrum orientated we are. Carlisari is an absolute unit. Carlisari is, for me, your next Frans Malherbe. Genuinely, I think he is. In terms of his size, his scrummaging ability and his ball carrying ability. But he's a... I don't understand why he's not rated. I mean, it looks like now he's about 6th or 7th choice tight head. After Saturday Sunday, he was the 2nd choice tight head at Stormers and has only played in the last 2 seasons 260 minutes of rugby. And that's not because of injury. He's been available. He just hasn't been selected all the time. He played 1 game of Super Rugby Unlocked, and he's played a bit of Currie Cup. But he hasn't played a lot of rugby at this level. So I must admit to being, I think Carlisari can feel very aggrieved. Yeah, so what are you saying? Morning Smith going to knock himself out again. I don't think coaches like Carlisari on the field. I think they just see him as a scrum expert. Listen, that guy got around for the Lions a lot. He's one of our best ball carriers last season. So I don't think that's a massive issue, to be perfectly honest. Same as Frans Malherbe. It's like lots of people took a while to understand Frans Malherbe does get around the field. Volko Low as well, is also one of those sort of very big units type thing, not necessarily the most mobile, but scrummaging is so important to the core of a Springbok game plan. You've got to have a good scrummager there. And I don't see Satisani or Morne Smith dominating scrums just yet. Kevin's saying, agreed, Salvador Carly is one of my favorite players. It's very good shooting. He's probably one of the strongest tight heads in the country, maybe even in the world. Sally's way too big. I mean, compared to Frans Malherbe, Carly sits at 138 kgs. Frans Malherbe is, I'm saying 2 pros 135 kg. Look, he is one more mobile. But Frans Malherbe is about 10 kgs difference. Carly, I think, will be absolutely fine in the field. I don't think he'd have any issues there whatsoever. Yeah, I think other players. So and then you got Andre Hugo Venter. I like that. I think Joe Stewart was always going to be picked. He does need to be. I mean, he needs the confidence. And everybody's sort of saying, how is he being picked? Who would you have? They've picked Andre Hugo Venter. Jan Grobbelaar's injured. Who would you have ahead of Joseph Dweber, honestly? As a Lions fan, I would tell you right now, don't take PJ Butcher or Jakob Asaki. Maybe Jakob Asaki has been playing the entire season and playing good rugby. You're not going to take Kieran van Vuuren. So who are you going to take? If not, Akpanamer is injured. So I know there is personal beef apparently with the box squad, so that's why he's not being picked anyway, but he's injured, so he's not even available. So I think that's a pretty standard pick. Ruan Nokia, the only lock, it's because there are so many locks in the SAS, in the Springbok squad, so they'll drop down. PS Boot Lazy, got no issue with. I think Sukamboza Noche is incredibly lucky to be a part of the squad. I really like Sukamboza Noche. I've always been a Noche fan, 100%. But yeah, I can't understand how he gets into the squad ahead of Marcel Garcia, for example. Frank Horn, Ruan Venter. Somebody who I think that in the last month would be an outside pick, but I think would again, if you can back Sacha Mngomezulu to play at Springbok level, how can you not back Ruan Venter to play at SAA level? And again, it's not because I don't like Noche. I think he's a fantastic player, but I think there are players who are playing better than him at the moment. I think there are players who are more deserving of a call up than him right now. Happy with the Pepsi Putelezi selection. I think he's a future Springbok captain potentially. I think if you had Marcel Garcia, Ruan Venter, or Frank Horn ahead of Noche, I think I would have been much happier. I do think for whatever reason the Marcel Garcia ship appears to have sailed. I would have liked to have seen Ruan Venter. If you can give a chance to Ekman Beg, if you can give a chance to Kane Moody, if you can give a chance to Sacha Mngomezulu, you can give a chance to Ruan Venter. Yeah, so where's Albert Lowe? He's injured at the moment. Temba say, happy to see the likes of Snell, Humber, Henk Verbeek, Facebook Lady, definitely future prospects for green and gold. So as people don't mention Green in the squad, he's one of the most overrated players out there. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. Tyrone Green is a very good player. He was one of the best players in the Premiership last season for the Harlequins. So yeah, I mean he's currently injured at the moment, so he's not even available for selection. But Notch is a good ball runner. That's why he's there. Well, you're telling me that Ruan Fenter's not a good ball carrier. He sat down 2 international players, and every single time he plays, he's breaking tackles. He's very good at the breakdown. Yeah, I understand he's young, but again, if by the logic of the Springbok squad, if you're going to go and pick, you're going to go pick Sacha Mngomezulu, Kane and Moody, and the likes, and Henk van Wyk, then back Ruan Venter. A lot of people saying Daimani should have been picked. Wouldn't be upset about that. I don't know if he's eligible. I don't know why it wouldn't be. I mean, in theory, he's been here for most of his life, so he should be eligible. But it might also be a case similar to the Tuka brothers, where he might not actually be available for selection. Daimani is a very different type of player. I don't think Daimani is very much in the mold. I think Franco Horn's very unlucky, to be honest. Even ahead of Ruan Venter. I mean, Franco Horn, for me, has been one of the best performing loose forwards in South Africa. Very hard-working player. Is now finding the try line a lot at the moment, and yeah, I think he's a fantastic player. I think he should be. I think he would have been very comfortable in that SAS squad. But so those are the forwards. We look at the backs. I think that the scrum halves, I don't think are that surprising. Senan Nahamba has actually been in the Bok radar before. He's been part of Bok alignment camp, so good to see him back in there. I like the fact that they've got Johan Person in the SA squad. I mean, personally, for me, I don't see the point in him. I would have put Jordan Hendricks in there. I would have put Chamberlain there ahead of him. He just needs to play rugby for me before he gets some call up. But they do see something special. I can understand it, but to a certain degree, because when he plays well, he's a game changer. He is. But he's just not playing rugby at the moment. I like to see Johnny Lombard there. I think he's a very good pick. I feel Fassi is fine. Cornel Hendricks is a very interesting selection because obviously it means that suddenly he's back in the Bok radar. And I think Cornel Hendricks is a very good quick replacement. I think that they very much... Damien Delinde goes down. Jesse Creel goes down. Who do we need in the centres? Who can we bring in? Someone who's going to slot in very well. Cornel Hendricks steps in there. The biggest thing is we don't know if he's been available. We don't know what the story is because that was the issue. They spoke about last year. They said, why isn't he called in? They said, well, there's medical issues. So obviously that's all been sorted out, which is really good to see. Yeah, so saying once you see Similani, you're not making an SAS squad directors helping play our position the Bulls. You can't pick Similani. I was one of the biggest fans of Similani. He's done nothing this season. He hasn't played out of position, so he's not been given the best chance, but he has done nothing this season to warrant it. He hasn't. Hey, you know what? I don't even feel that bad, to be perfectly honest. I must admit, half of me thinks, you know what? Not sort of serves you right, but this whole concept of as soon as you move to the Bulls, suddenly everything's going to be fine, and you're playing, and you make it the Bok squad. Henk van Wyk is in the SAS squad. Henk van Wyk wouldn't have been playing this much rugby if Similani hadn't moved on. So it's ironic that Similani moved to the Bulls to get that move and stuff like that, and to try and get back into the Bok radar, and it's actually taken him further away from the Boks. And I think that's a good. I think it's a good lesson to a lot of youngsters out there that, when you make your move and stuff like that, be very careful about when you do make those moves, because there is a chance, especially when you go to a squad that is pretty stacked, with settled players. If you're not pushing them out of the side, you might find. Look again. I think long term, Similani will probably be fine, and he'll get back to a side, and I'm sure he'll come off. But short term, he could be in his SAS squad had he stayed at the Lions, because he would have been playing a lot more at outer centre probably. He's left. Henk van Wyk has taken the opportunity. Henk van Wyk's in the SAS squad. Henk van Wyk could very well be a Springbok by the end of the year. That wouldn't have happened, I don't think, if Similani had stayed, to be honest, because I don't think Henk van Wyk would have had as much opportunity. I think he'd been coming off the bench. So, yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. Is Cornel Hendricks still on Bok level, though? Listen, you might not have had the start of this season he's had of the last season, but the last 2-3 years, name me a more consistent backline player than Cornel Hendricks. That Super Rugby Unlocked, those sort of seasons, even the URC last season, you could put him inside center, outside center, on the wing, and he looks so comfortable. So yes, I think he's very much still international level. I think he's more international level now than he ever has been. Big call. But Daniel says, do you think they will use some of the Springbok squad for the SAS match, so they're touring separately? Yeah, they have to use the squad. They've only got 19 players over there, so there will be a lot of the SA of the Springbok squad. So basically, you'll see whoever doesn't make it to that Irish 23 or the 23 to play Ireland next weekend will drop down. And then the final selection, I very much battled to understand how Simon Hartzenberg found his way into the squad. When you think of Leon Zas, for example, you look at even Vernon Koch this season, you look at Edel van der Merwe in the last sort of 12 months, I don't see how Simon Hartzenberg has found his way into the squad. I don't. It sounds harsh. It does sound harsh. But again, you talk about having played at this level. He's 19 years old. He's played 4 games at this level. 4 games. 298 minutes, which is actually more than Sacha Mngomezulu. So to be fair to him, at least he has played. But I think he's a very nice player. I think he's a very good player. I'm not sure he's generational. I'm not sure he suddenly jumped ahead of players who've been playing at this level longer. Your Edel van der Merwe, your Vernon Cox, your Leland Zasses. I'm surprised at it. I really am. I struggle to understand how he's managed to get there, to be honest. I think Leland Zas can sit there wondering what more he has to do. He's coming back from injury at the moment, but his first game he picked up where he left off. And last season I thought Leland Zas was Bok call-up material with the way he was playing. So I think he can call himself very unlucky. And again, it's nothing against Hartzenberg. I'm not saying he's not a good player, but I just don't think he's ready yet. I just think there are other players who have been playing better rugby more consistently over the last 12 months that should be there. Edel van der Merwe being one of them, if you want looking for a 14. Vernon Cock even potentially on this season's form. And if you're not just looking for a wing, I think Leon Zas has to be in that conversation. So, yeah, as I said, that's why I'm sort of 50-50, because I really like the Cornel Hendricks selection. I really like the Johnny Lombard selection. I like the Andre Hugo Penta selection. I like the Pepsi Buthelezi selection. I don't like the Sunday Morne Smith over Carlos Sadi selection. I don't think Sikomozi Noche should be there ahead of Frank Horn, Ruan Fenta, Marcel Kutsia, even Hajiva Damani if you want to throw him in that mix. So, yeah, I'm 50-50 when it comes to this SAA squad, I must admit. I think Herschel Young's under a lot of pressure. I like to see Cornel Hendricks back in there. Henk van Wyk, we have barely spoken about him, but I think Henk van Wyk could be a Springbok by the end of the year. I do. I think if anything happens to Jesse Creel, I think we're going to see Henk van Wyk playing in 13. You're going to have to. I mean, maybe they might not. If you think Kane Moody is ready to play at this level, Henk van Wyk can play at this level. I do. And I think that Henk van Wyk, he's young. He's a young kid. He's still got. He's older than. He's 21, so he's older than Sacha Mngomezulu. He's older than Kane Moody. He's older than Ron Fenter. He's older than Simon Hartzenberg. And he's still new to this level. But he, for me, looks very ready. He's already played 310 minutes this season alone. He played over 100 minutes last season, and every time he's played, so he's played 500, 600 minutes at URC level. Played a bit of Currie Cup, but I mean he's been one of the Lions' best players by a country mile, and the Lions side's playing well as well. So yeah, it'll be very interesting to see if Jesse Creel gets injured, do they go with the safe option, which would be to potentially play somebody else, play Andre Estes on the inside, move Damon Delende outside. You can bring in Cornel Hendricks as a quick replacement, or you can take a risk and play Henk van Wyk. Just defensively, I wouldn't be surprised if they go Henk van Wyk, because he has proved that I think is one of the reasons that I think that he might get fast tracked to the squad. Defensively, he has been sublime for the Lions, and that's a big part of playing at outside center. And I think working with Jacques Fourie has been a revelation for Big. So that's what my thoughts are about the squad. We're going to wrap it up there. And yeah, the squads are out. We now get to debate them. We now get to wait in eagerness for the final 23 for the Boks depending on the island to be announced. Will probably be next week, Tuesday or Wednesday. We will have previews up later of the Sharks versus the Lions versus Stormers, Scotland versus Australia, which we will be live for tomorrow. Japan versus New Zealand as well. So lots of content coming your way this afternoon. And yeah, we'll be live for 3 games tomorrow. And yeah, we officially it's the Autumn series. We're gonna have a video update as well on how to watch the Autumn series, which is gonna be very easy and very cheap. So keep a lookout for that. And yeah, we'll chat to you guys all very soon. Please do smash like on the video on the way out. We asked if you guys are happy with the Springbok squad. 100 people have voted, and 98% people have said yes, they are happy. So yeah, that should all be. We're gonna see if they're all happy. They're still happy later on. But yeah, thank you very much.